bang. Hey, everybody, how are you? Y'all ready to talk about Mother Nellie Jackson? Corona, the good kind. How are y'all? Hey, I want to go to an amusement park. What kind of amusement park? Like Six Flags? You trying to catch Corona? How is everybody? It just feels like it is hot in here today. 1 second. What kind of amusement park do you want to go to? I haven't been to an amusement park in years because I don't really like the feeling of roller coasters. I don't really like the feeling of a million people in groups. That seems to be what is always going on at an amusement park, and I don't like that. I do kind of like some of the foods, but yeah, I'm not really into the roller coaster stuff. All right. I had to change shirts because the bitch was feeling hot. I'll wear my gloves and mask while I'm there. Yeah, I don't feel it. We're gonna give people we're gonna start in like 7:40, 7:45, just to give people a chance to come on in. We are going to discuss the documentary Mississippi Madam, The Life of Nellie Jackson. Nellie was born in 1901. She's an African American woman born into poverty in Possum Corner, Mississippi. She hustled her way north to Natchez to got somebody to bring her to the city. Actually married somebody for them to get her to the city. And she opened Nellie's, a brothel. She ran for more than 60 years. She did a lot of other stuff. So we are going to discuss that tonight, because we talked about it on my last live, and this was going to be our discussion. How are y'all enjoying?
I write jokes in my spirit.
Yeah, she ran it for 60 years. 60 years. It's wild. So that's what, make sure as you come in, you thumbs up before we get started. We're going to discuss things like race, gender, sexuality, um, sex, not necessarily sexuality, but sex. And we're going to discuss, a woman making things work in a time that it could have been really dangerous for her. It could have been quite different, but somehow she made it work. Hey, Brandon, how are you? I have my notes. My handwriting sucks. So did everybody get a chance to catch up and watch Mississippi Madam, The Life of Nellie Jackson documentary? If you still can follow with the conversation because we'll be able to you'll be able to get the theme of what we're talking about even if you haven't seen it. But hey, Coco Barbie, how are you?
I'm doing great. I feel like I'm starring in my own TV show.
Why is my Google? I have my Google set up to where it sounds like Issa Rae. Did y'all just hear? And I don't know why she's talking to me. Hey, Google. Who is Nellie Jackson from Natchez?
According to the Clarion Ledger, Nellie Jackson ran a brothel in Natchez for 60 years and did it in plain sight. She was known for her charitable giving and was an FBI informant.
I just thought it was cool to make my Google sound like Issa Rae. I think you can make it sound like Issa Rae, Samuel L. Jackson, and I think somebody else, but I liked Issa Rae. So what has been going on in y'all life? Anybody got some good news? Anybody been, I have, it's not necessarily good news or bad news. My internet went out earlier today. My modem, not necessarily my internet, my modem for my internet went out. And it was, I can say that everything went quite quick. But the fixing the problem went quite quick. Quick enough for me to appreciate good service, but there was some strange things based in COVID and all kinds of stuff. So when the modem went out, I had to call them. Your video with Dr. Money was everything. Oh, I love Montanique. Montanique is amazing. If you haven't checked out our video, it's the last video I posted. It is me doing an interview with Dr. Montanique McEachern, and she is a family therapist, Black feminist, lesbian, and she's just amazing. So I had to bring her on the show so y'all can enjoy her. Yeah, so my modem went out and I had to call them. So first of all, when you call them, the computer says, the little automated thing says, oh, I'm saying it in a ghetto voice. You need to unplug your modem and plug it back in, and we'll text you and call you back. When you do that, you're not going to be able to get to an agent if you don't do that. I'm like, what? So I kept trying to skip. She wouldn't let me skip. She was like, sweetie, if you want to talk to an agent, bitch, you need to unplug your modem, wait for 15 seconds, and plug it back in. And we'll text you. And when we text you, then we'll call you and you can speak to an agent. I was like, what? And so did that. They text me back, got to an agent. The agent barely spoke English. It was weird. I hate it. I hate that. Literally hate that. He transferred me to another person that spoke English quite well. And then they said, well, sweetie, you got to go to a store. So I had to go to the Xfinity store. Went to the Xfinity store. They have dots all around the room. And when you come in, everybody has on masks and they make you stand at a dot that are 6 feet away from people. And they take one customer at a time. You have to take whatever products that you're returning, you have to put them on this cart. And it's different boxes, colored boxes and colored things. You put they say, put the plug here, put the old modem here. Like they don't touch anything, you touch everything. Then they bring you your new modem out. They sit it on the cart and push it towards you, and you take the cart out. Every time somebody come in, there's somebody directing them to a 6 foot away dot. It's a dot all around the room. So you kind of, and then when you waiting on your stuff to come out, you're like at a dot, and then you move and come to here, and then this person goes to the dot. It is all this. It's almost like Twister, baby. Everybody going to dots, almost like playing kickball. Like you going to first, second, third base as you finish, and then I had to leave and go back out. So it was super, super strange. But my internet was out and I got everything fixed in a new modem and everything. I didn't have to wait for it to be mailed. I could just go directly to the store. And it took me maybe 30 minutes to do all of that. So I'm just excited about that because I remember back in the day, they would have to mail you or you would wait for some person to come and all that kind of stuff for hours and hours and hours. It went quite fast, but it was just strange how they were interacting at the store. But I appreciate it because they're just trying to keep safe, but it's kind of interesting. Let's see. Melissa says, I saw the documentary on Nellie Jackson. She was ahead of her time in the sex work game. Yes. Kind of good news. I went to see my new apartment. It is gorgeous. Yes, come on, new apartment. Yes, we're going to get started in about 4 minutes. Gonna get started. Oh, no. Wow. Wanna give it to you, give it. What have y'all been watching other than Nellie? Have y'all been watching anything good on TV? I have been watching Miss America. Oh my God. I absolutely love Miss America. With Kate Blanchett and Sarah Paulson and Crazy Eyes from, I don't know her name, Uzu. She's Crazy Eyes from Orange is the New Black. Whoever plays Crazy Eyes, her. She's on there as she plays Shirley Chisholm. There's a lady, I don't know her name either, but she plays Gloria Steinem. And it is so good, y'all. It is so good. I finished Hollywood on Netflix. I have not finished Hollywood on Netflix. I started it, but I haven't finished it. So I still got to work on that. It's steamy and hot and good. I like it so far. But Miss America on Netflix, oh my God. It is so good. Like what I think is amazing about Miss America is these little small circumstances, these little small conversations, these small, amazing interactions that kind of demonstrate how within movements, like within the Black movement, within the white movement, within the feminist movement, within, the evangelical movement, whatever movement that you feel you are the demographic for, you are a part of, there are these little conversations that the leaders of those movements are having where they are constantly negotiating whether or not to throw their constituents under the bus, like to compromise the morals of the group, to compromise the needs, the demands of the group, just to get incremental change. And oh my God, the show really, whoever writes it, they are brilliantly writing it um, to share these little nuanced conversations. And I think it's so amazing. It is a great show. I love it. Um, yes. So, okay, let's get started. So, yes. Um, so what do y'all think? What are y'all feelings about prostitution? Like just growing up and what you think about prostitution, your images of prostitution. Tell me your images of prostitution. What is your first what has been your first interaction with prostitution, your first mindset, what you learned about prostitution, what you learned about sex work, what are what is considered sex work and what is not, all that kind of stuff. What are some of the things that y'all have experienced growing up in learning about sex work, and how did it reveal itself to you? So for me, I remember I have an aunt. Her name is Roz. Rest in peace. She passed away back in 2004 or five, somewhere around there. And she was a madam. She owned basically what Nellie did, except not in the country, in a city. She owned multiple massage parlors in Indianapolis. Um, and when I say own, I'm loosely, because actually it was she eventually, when she first started, she didn't own them. She she ran them for a white man who was in love with her. His name was Jack Horner. Um, she ended up having a baby by Jack Horner too, my Uncle Mike. Um, she owned monkeys. She had a mansion in Australia. At one point, she came back to Indianapolis. Um, she just was she just was the most glamorous woman in my life outside of my mother. My mom was kind of hood, but she was hood too, but she was just more, because she had money and was glamorous based on being an escort. She you know she just was always the glamorous person. I knew what she did because my grandmother, so so my aunt Roz is not my mother's sister. My aunt Roz is my mother's auntie. She's my grandmother's sister, and it's only two of them. So my grandmother, her name is Pauline, and my aunt Rosalind. So Pauline and Rosalind were two sisters and only two girls. In the My great grandmother only had two girls, and so my grandmother is the goody two shoes grandmother. I'm not goody two shoes grandmother. She's the goody two shoes sister. She's the good sister out of the two sisters. My aunt Roz was the bad apple. She was the black sheep, but she was the most beautiful. So that caused attention. It's not that my grandmother wasn't beautiful. It's just that she looked like my great aunt, but she had some flaws. So my grandmother had like bad teeth. So she had like buck teeth, and her teeth wasn't as, that was her flaw. So she looked like my Aunt Roz, but my Aunt Roz didn't have any of the flaws. Like growing up, my Aunt Roz was the most beautiful woman I have ever saw. I have a picture of her on my Instagram. And like growing up, she just was, for me, the epitome of beauty. And um she had money, she was all that kind of stuff. So let me zoom in. Let's see if I can zoom in. That is a mink fur. She's naked with like a mink fur all over her body. And this was like in I want to say 60s, 70s. This is like 60s, 70s. No. She was, so 48. This is like 60s. So This was like, it had to be like the 60s, like mid 60s that this picture was taken. So she just was, I don't, just looking at her, she just was the, I can't, when she came around, she was like Glinda the Good Witch. She was like gorgeous. She always was fabulous. She had fur, and she was down to earth. So it wasn't just fabulous, stuck up, bougie. It was fabulous, coined out, and down to earth, like a regular, cool ass woman. So my grandmother was the stuck up, bougie wannabe, broke ass. I went to college, so I think I'm all that. But she was broke, so she was a nurse, and I'm talking like this about my grandmother because first of all, she's one of the people in my life who didn't accept my transition. So we don't really like each other. But she but it gives you the dynamic of my Aunt Roz and my grandmother Pauline. My Aunt Roz was the one who just always accepted me. She was like, she would come get me. So mind you, this picture is when she was in her heyday. Like she just was stunning. Like white men loved her, black men loved her. She just was, when you walked in the room with my Aunt Roz, you would have thought she was Beyonce. Like she just, like dudes just gave her whatever she wanted. Like it just what it was. And so when I older in the 70s, my Aunt Roz got caught up in drugs. So she got a heroin addiction. So as we all know, because she got caught up with this nigga named Possum. Go figure. And she got a heroin addiction. So from the time that she got in the 70s down to like, on down till she passed away in '04, she was addicted to heroin. She got addicted to crack when the crack epidemic happened in the late '80s, early '90s. But early '70s to '80s, she was a heroin addict. And so she went from this rich, glamorous woman to a dope fiend. And still beautiful. Don't get that twisted. She still was beautiful, and niggas recognized her beauty. But she just was an older woman. And she turned into like this grimy, hustling dope fiend. And so she robbing niggas, she drinking, like her whole demeanor changed. And so I remember my mom. Now, when my mom had me, because I'm trying to explain to you how prostitution came into my life. So I knew that my Aunt Roz did sex work. I didn't know exactly because I was young, so I didn't know exactly how that worked. But I knew that when they call her a whore and a prostitute and all that kind of stuff behind her back, I knew that it had something to do with sex. But I wasn't, as a child, I didn't know the nuance and the details and all that kind of stuff. So, but my grandmother being the stuck up, talking shit about her sister type one, I would hear my grandmother talk shit about her. Oh, she's a prostitute. She's a whore. She's fucking all these men and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, she got that fancy car because she was fucking some white man. Like they would talk about her behind her back. Not my mother, but my grandmother. And so I knew it was something about having sex and getting paid for it. That's all I knew. And so when my mother got older, now my mother had me at like 16, 17. And so because she got pregnant, my mother, remember I told you, my grandmother, she was the goody two shoes type of sister. So when my mother got pregnant, she almost punished my mother. Like she wouldn't help my mother. Like if my mother had to go to work or my mother got a job, she was like, oh, how you gonna work if you ain't got no babysitter? Because I'm not watching no motherfucking kids. You got pregnant, you watch some motherfucking kids. Like it almost was like a punishment. So my mother got her own place, moved out of her my grandmother's house, and she moved into a low income building. Uh, 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 yeah, it was low income. It was back then. It was called an LD building. I don't remember what LD stand for, but LD something. It was like an LD building, and so it was three families in the building, and my mother had the bottom floor, and so we my mom was struggling one time and couldn't buy me diapers, where she literally had a bread bag on me for a diaper. And my aunt Roz, who was deep into her addiction, she wasn't glamorous and she had definitely fell off in regards to her status, in regards to her, you know, who she was in the hood. Like in the hood, my aunt, she was legendary. And so she had her status had fallen because she just turned into a dolphin. And so she came over and what my mother said, she said, "You got this baby." And mind you, she an old head. Um, so at this time she's in her my mother's in her 20s. So she's probably in her no, my mother's at 17, 18, 17. So she's probably in her early 30s, my aunt Roz. Probably in her early 30s. And she said, "You got this motherfucking baby." So still a pretty woman. She said, "You got this motherfucking baby in a fucking bread basket, bitch. In a bread bag." She was like, "What kind of mom are you that you sitting over there with a whole pussy?" And basically, this is what my mama said. She said, "You sitting over there with a whole pussy. I know your mama told you all the negative shit about me, but I ain't never without no motherfucking money. Long as you got a pussy hole, your baby shouldn't go without anything. Now, I'm trying to put you up on game. You can either sit here with your baby in a motherfucking bread basket, or I can teach you how to get this money." Basically, on her Ronnie Ho quotes, Players Club shit. She was like, "I got somebody I can introduce you to, but he gonna want to fuck. You 17, you got a baby. This how you make this money because you got a job, but that's going to bills. How you gonna flourish on that motherfucking bullshit job at 17? Let me show you how to flourish." So she hooked my mother up with one of her old clients named GB. So GB became a staple in my life because anytime when it was time to have school clothes, when it was time to have summer clothes, winter clothes, Christmas time, GB will always pop up. He owned houses, he was a black dude, older black dude, owned all kinds of shit in the city. So he had money. And anytime my mama needed something, she would go see GB and we would have Christmas presents, new furniture, new beds, she hooked her up with one of her old clients. She was like, "I'm getting old, so niggas always want new pussy, new young pussy. So let me introduce you to him. He'll take care of you because like he older than me. He older than my aunt Roz." And so she put her on and she took care of her. And GB just passed away like a month ago. And he has been looking out for my mama years ago. For years. Until my mama started fucking up and getting on drugs and shit. But when she was younger and like we had knew everything. He always took care of. Even when she was fucking out of town and she had new boyfriends, she could always slide in the slide. No, they didn't have DMs back then, but she could always slide in GB's DMs if they had DMs. She could get what she wanted, and that was always what she did. So that was my introduction to kind of like sex working and prostitution and using your body to survive in a world that wasn't set up for you to succeed or whatever. And so I don't even think they had pages then. so I knew this is what was happening. Like I knew when I was younger, this was what was happening. But my mother didn't talk about it. Like I just knew based on me being a precocious ass eavesdropping ass child. I just knew what was going on. My mother didn't talk about it. It wasn't that's my mother is a kind of like a shameful woman. Like she wouldn't talk about that. That's not something she would talk about. She would be ashamed to talk about that. Like she would do it and do what you need to do, but she wouldn't talk about it. So that's just what it was. Let me see what I'm saying. So that was my introduction. I always wondered about, let's see. Let's go back up. My first image was streetwalkers in New York City. Yeah, I didn't see Hostro streetwalkers until I got a little bit older and they were on the gay Hostro. Yeah. And then I would there was this street in Indianapolis called, it was a number street, it was 38th Street. And I would see people walking or sitting on bus stops and they would get in and out of cars. And I didn't know that they were prostitutes at the time until I got older. Initially, I thought it was a means to drugs. When I learned that strippers were also sex workers, my views shifted. My boo is a WGS grad, so they helped me with the language around sex worker. Yes, and so expanding my mindset around sex worker, because for me, whatever you are doing to secure a bag that involves sex, you're doing sex work to me. If you're securing a bag, securing an item, securing a position, if you think about how that expands to who's doing sex work, when you think of it like that, if you're using sex as a tool, a means, a tactical strategy to get you an advancement, to put you in a position, a better position, to get you something, whether it be money, a car, a new washing machine, a new status in the community. So if you're using sex in your body to get to that better thing, I consider that sex work. So think how much more expansive that, how many more people are included in sex worker narrative if you define it like that. So when you think of the housewife, if I want a new washing machine and I know that if I fuck him real good and ask him after I fuck him real good, he'll say yes instead of giving me a no, you just did sex work, baby, for a washing machine. If you specifically are put in a position to marry some politician because you have the right look, because you have the right credentials, and you can fuck them and give them babies, and you know fucking him and giving this man some babies and being this perfect type of woman to him is going to get you a better status, that's sex work to me. I think. I know it's not illegal, but it's sex work to me. I feel like if you're not fucking for love and you fucking for status and money, sweetie, you're a sex worker. Our first lady is a sex worker. I think. So those things to me are sex worker things as well. I always wondered about the why of prostitution, like their reasoning for doing it. I also think about the imbalance of power between the straight cis men and everyone else in prostitution. Yes. So that's a good thing. So why it's varies for different people, but what I would say is when I talk to people, when I engage with anybody who has done sex work, anybody who, even under my definition, it's always to improve their freedom, improve their way of life, improve and get them out of a struggle. That's what it's always on some type of situation like that to get them out of a struggle of not being free to do what they want to do. I know some dudes. I know some dudes and chicks who are in situations with their husbands. Even on this particular show, we'll get to talking about the girls. They talked about how the girls that work for Nellie Jackson was, some of them were married, and so they're not making enough money for you to be free and do what you want to do or get out of an abusive situation. So, hey, I'll go turn some tricks and move right the fuck along. You see what I'm saying? It gives you a certain amount of power. When we think about like back in the day when women didn't have protections in regards to workforce discrimination and workforce sexual harassment, you didn't have any protections in certain fields. You couldn't move up to a certain level of income in certain fields as a woman. Because during this era, you couldn't do that. You couldn't. It wasn't about whether or not, you worked hard and did your job correctly. No, during this era, no. It doesn't matter how hard you work. You're a woman. You can't be in this position. There's so many situations where that has been the case. And so getting into this level of business gives you a certain level of freedom. It gives you a certain level of freedom, financial freedom, and because pussy, ass, dick always sells. Somebody always want it. Somebody is in need of it. Somebody want it. It's always a demand for it. And if you have a particular aesthetic, you have a particular mindset around how to make this kind of hustle work, it can be quite lucrative and quite successful for you. So the why is different for different people, but it is what it is. The money is a reason enough for me. Wow, all I can say is wow. My sis best friend and I have the prostitution argument all the time. She thinks I should stop. She said she would rather I live in poverty and starve than to do sex work. She's silly. Live in poverty and starve than to do sex work. I think she sounds like she's talking from a place of privilege because if she was starving, her mind, just how your chemical makeup in your mind would change her tune. If she was really starving and living in poverty. I have never met a person who was really starving and living in poverty that wouldn't do whatever they need to do, especially something as simple as sucking a dick or fucking somebody, especially if it's somebody they like. Yeah, trust me. They'll be singing another tune, but she's speaking from a place of privilege. Um, for me, it was in the music, and I knew it wasn't just a song. It always made sense to me. What song were you talking about, Justin? What songs? Give me some example of songs. What part of Mississippi is your family from? Again, Diamond. They are from all over Mississippi, but mainly Lee County, Lee County, Walnut Grove. Family is from Natchez, and I relate to some Colliers here too. Yes, there's some call. I have some family, distant relatives in Natchez, in Grenada, in Clinton, in Hattiesburg, all over like Louisiana. Anything that's like Meridian, Mississippi, any of Mississippi, Louisiana. If you're a Collier, you're probably connected to me. Um, Women in gender studies. I don't. Wait, did I miss? What do you mean by that? Okay, women in gender studies graduate. WGS. Yes, okay, gotcha. Um, yes, indeed. I have fantasies of doing sex work involving BDSM. Yes, BDSM is a particular skill set that you have to have. You have to really be into role playing and being an actress. That's a particular subset of sex work that requires a particular set of skills. And if you don't have them, you are not going to be good at it and you're not going to make money at doing it. Um, I'm from New Orleans and it wasn't a lot of bounce music. Yes, absolutely. Definitely. Um, Ride that dick a little deeper, and a nigga might get you a beeper. Yes, is one of the examples. Absolutely. Sex work has always been themed in music, definitely. Um, yeah, so one of the things that I wanted to talk about is if you watch the beginning of the documentary, um, we what the picture that they painted in the beginning of the documentary is how Nellie lived in this house and how she was a part of the neighborhood. How she would make the neighborhood shit that she lived in, the houses around her, look just as pretty as hers. Not as pretty, but close to being, clean. She made the street, made everything over there look nice and pretty. She would paint her neighbors' houses. She would um she would cook for her neighbors. She would cook for even her white neighbors, and not necessarily the ones in power, but the ones that she would take care of the ones in power. We'll talk about later. Um, but she really, and I think this is the core. This is a core reason why somebody, a black um, woman running a black brothel in Mississippi. I want y'all to get that. This is not New York. This is Mississippi, where racism is at the highest level. um, at the highest level. So, why it is so, why the reason she was able to do this, why I think her building community, her making connections with community or with the community around her. This is a core tenet of her being successful in this business. Her having a brothel, an illegal business that is running without any problems, is because she was building community. Remember, she was giving one of the guys, a errand boy. He was coming in and cleaning the rooms for her. She was giving him a job and her light skin privilege. We'll get on that. We'll get on that later. Um, um, and she was giving some of the boys jobs. She was giving the workers jobs, exploiting a little bit, but also taking care of them more better than if it was a man running the brothel. Understand the difference of how men run things and how women run things. She's running things with a little bit of care. Do you see what I'm saying? She's giving them their own. They said they had their own sinks. They had their own, their own rooms, and she was taking care of them in a way. And they had their own doctor. She was taking care of the health care. This is why they loved, and they were making money, and she was making money too. So there was a exploitative nature for it, but also, they wouldn't be doing it if they weren't benefiting in some kind of way. So they were benefiting just as much as she was, or a fair amount of exchange. She definitely was a different kind of hustler in regards to, let me make everybody around me feel good so that when it's time to protect me, I'm being protected. I remember when they start talking about the girls, just the business of having all white clients. We don't see black dudes here, baby. No black men. And if you in any kind of sex work, you see that on people's ads. No black clients, baby. We don't accept black clientele. But she was like that too. She was like, we only do white clients. Mm-hmm. Sorry, baby. We only do white clients. What else? And I think that that's a level of, I think it's two things. It gives you a certain level of power because in that era of time, the white people had the power. This is in Natchez, Mississippi. The white people had the power. One of the mayors was mayor for 20 years. The mayor that was under that she was under was mayor for 20 years. Child, the same mayor. So clearly, the white people had the power positions of power locked up, and it was nothing but white men as the police department, as the police. That's just what it was. Right, exactly. Right, because it there's a difference between coming in and busting the black folks having a situation. But when you coming in busting and you know the potential that you're going to be busting white folks, you might think twice, which they did. They thought twice. Um, Only having white clients, um, and just building community with the white people and the black people. She also, if you pay attention to the end of the documentary, she also was given to the churches. Like she was one of the biggest donors to the churches in the community. So at the end of her life, they were having some kind of issue with them, with her doing her funeral. But that preacher was like, yeah, right. That pastor was like, y'all better get the fuck up out of here. She was one of our biggest donors. And honey, we is gonna bury her right. We are gonna do what we need to do. Y'all can be mad. You mad, stay mad. Sorry. No, we is not gonna play with y'all. We is not, we gonna bury her right because she was one of the people who took care of us. Why you broke ass bitches don't barely want to give us tithes, she wasn't even coming to our motherfucking church. And she was giving to us. Get out of here. So she got locked up for the first time. Um, because the dude had murdered one of her girls. Nellie got locked up in regards to that. She didn't have nothing to do with it, but they locked her up anyway. But from what everybody said, she still was taken care of. The joke was that she was in there with her own sofa and refrigerator and color TV, and it wasn't no color TVs out yet. So they had made a joke about that. And and they had taken care of her. She did her little time, but it wasn't a lot of time. And they let her out. I think that just was just to put on, just performative. It really wasn't. They was like, girl, Nellie, we know you oiling our pockets, you oiling us up with the little liquor and the little cuts on the end, on the back end. Just for the sake of the visual, let us keep you in here for a couple of weeks, a week. We'll let you make your calls and run your business outside of, from here. Make your calls, do your thing, but just stick around a little bit, and then we'll let you out, and it'll look like we did our job. I'm in an organization that teaches BDSM for the curious and those who want to live out the fantasy. I actually do. I want to be a dom, but it's hard for me to get the right kind of clientele who is into trans women, who are into what I'm into. Um, it's hard to find people. I'm on certain apps, but it's really hard to find people in regards to that. So send me a message with your organization so I can see if they can help me. Okay, and yes, she was a mother figure. That wouldn't They would have burned the place down. Yes, 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 yes. That brings up the question: if prostitution was legal and monitored by law, would the stigma change? No, I think the stigma of prostitution is rooted in patriarchal control. It is meant for it is Prostitution gives women money and power. Okay, they are exploiting the men's desire to get power, to be stable and self-sufficient. anything that does that to women, it is going to be deemed as a problem. It has roots in religion, but it's just not a religious base. I think it goes back further than that. I think controlling you and wanting to have access to you for free is what the mainstream wants. They want you to be a good girl, and they want to have access to you. They want you to get married and be controlled. Da, 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 da. Prostitution in historical context, the courtesans have always been the people who had a little bit more power, a little bit more access than the regular peasant woman, because she was under the patriarchal constraints of her husband. You really couldn't own property without a husband. You couldn't legally do shit with money in regards to property, in regards to anything. So men were the access to power. They were the key to to the status quo, to be of status. You couldn't just move up statuses as a woman unless it was through a man. And so prostitution has always been something that have given women a little bit of power in situations where the balance of power was quite lacking. So I don't think legalizing it is going to take away that stigma. What I think legalizing is going to do is, I personally am I'm not personally of the camp that thinks prostitution should be legal. I think prostitution should be decriminalized, not legal. There's a difference. Legal makes it to where the government can come in and regulate. Decriminalizing means that it's not criminal to do. Period. Legalizing it is a different. Legalizing it, it makes it an industry. I don't want not makes it an industry. It makes it a regulated industry. Making it a legal, official business, I don't want that to happen. I want it to be, honey, I can't go to jail for this, but I can do what I want. It's sex. I remember spending summers with my grandparents out in the country. I used to have a fear the KKK would come to get me in the middle of the night. All I knew was Mississippi KKK in my years. Yeah, KKK was big, especially in this time. Was quite funny is how open the KKK was then, and they kind of showed the messiness that was going on, imbalance of power in the KKK. How the old guard was different from the new guard. How they were kind of breaking off into different branches because it wasn't working. So when we talk about when Black people have when anti-Black people have conversations about Black people, that sounds like, oh, Black people can't organize. They can't come together. They think it too much. They can't work together. They can't do this. They can't do that. That's human beings. That's just not, everybody has different views and different priorities. So there's going to be branches of groups that are not going to come together because they disagree on some fundamental issues. And so they're going to be different groups. And that's the same thing on the white side. There is going to be, even in like the Klan, there's going to be these different groups that feel we should be more aggressive in this part, or we should be less aggressive in this part, or we should focus on this, or we should focus on that. The focus is going to be different in any group, in any movement, and that's just the way it is, the negative ones and the positive ones. And if you hear people talking like that about Black people, about any group that you are a part of, they're just anti-Black. Or anti-LGBT. It just depends on what group you talk about. They're just anti. They have drink the Kool-Aid. The white supremacist Kool-Aid. I think it would be changed. I think it would change either. Just more socially accepted, but they would tamper in it some way. But people would be working on it like they do Roe versus Wade. Right. That's if you make it a legal thing. I don't want to make it a legal thing. And I think you are exactly right. when you make, like when Roe versus Wade, when you make it something that they have to work to overturn, then, oh, we got to overturn this. No, I want to make it to where it's decriminalized. It's not illegal to do. Take those rules off the books. Don't make it an institution to do. The irony of the KKK denouncing prostitution, but being clients, and then Nellie being an FBI informant against them was quite interesting. Absolutely. I think that was an interesting thing. But also that some of those same Klans members went on to be police officers and went on to be in the FBI. Remember all of that? And then, like you said, them having clients, I wrote that in my notes too, messing with the black holes. Like they're so hateful towards the black people during that civil rights movement thing. But they would be dealing with Nellie's black prostitutes. That's wild. But we see that in other avenues too. Like when we think about down low men, they're the same way. You'll have them fucking look at Eddie Long. He was fucking all them little young teenage boys, and he was marching against gay marriage. Like, come on, like niggas for years in different groups for different causes have been fake, especially when it comes to sexuality. Is this a documentary on Amazon? Yes. It is on I think it's on Prime or Amazon or something like that. It is called Mississippi Madam: The Life of Nellie Jackson. So we know that's how it is. Like, we know church motherfuckers is fake. They'll be talking fire and brimstone, but you know, the popes and shit and bishops and shit is fucking little boys. You will have, I hate the gays, but I'm fucking all the hoes of my congregation. You know, especially when it comes to sexuality, niggas is fake. And you know, that's just what it is. And I think that I don't think this is the case with everybody, but I think that there is some internalized hate for a lot of people because they want to explore and they see something in themselves and that they don't want there. And so they hate everything outside of it. So like, I hate black people, but I'm sexually attracted to them. And it becomes almost like a fetish too. And for a place that's so conservative, the teen pregnancy rate in Mississippi is crazy. Absolutely. And the drugs and the opioid crisis. For y'all anywhere in the Bible Belt, for y'all to be such in the Bible Belt, y'all, all this money y'all making in these churches, y'all should have so many problems fixed. There should be very little homelessness. It's just, I just don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. Crazy. I also thought it was amazing that Nellie became like a mother of the civil rights movement. When the Klan was acting up and they were, you know, protesting and they were locking the protesters up, she was paying for them to get out and, you know, telling them white motherfuckers, look, y'all need to let them kids out. These are good kids. And this bullshit that they're protesting is bullshit. Stop fucking with them kids. And, you know, like that black dude said, he was like, just looking at her talk to these white motherfuckers like she had authority. She became like a god. Because she knew where her power lied. Her power lied in that black book she had. She was like, I've been in this fucking city for decades. I know everybody's secret. I know everybody's secret. No different from police officer today, minister, teacher, everything. All careers, so one thing, but do something else. Absolutely. You know, and it just her, but that goes back to her remember, as I said, that is a core tenet of her success is being that she, she built community. Mm. And so I did want to talk about her being light skinned as she was. Like when you look at the pictures of her in her past, she was a pretty woman. She was a lighter complected. And we know that in the history of this country, that's something that gets, especially in this particular era, the era in the 20s, like she was born in 1901 or 1902. So think about 1902. So when she was 17, 18, so 1902, 1912, 1917. So 1917 to 19 like 25. This is when she's coming into she's 15 up into her 20s. So during this time, that yellow bone shit would have definitely got her access to a little bit more than something else, especially in regards to white folks. The whole in the beginning of the documentary, the whole way she got out of her country ass town was because she married a nigga who was gonna take her to Natchez, the city. Not that was the city closest to her, the river town, baby. Now, I wanted to read her for feeding her dogs bacon grease and cornmeal as a pet owner. That was offensive to my soul. um, no, I haven't watched Drug Scandal. How to Fix a Drug Scandal, no. But them dogs are spoiled. Um, and just being, I think just having, the business savvy to have all different type of girls from all over, from Japanese girls, Vietnamese girls, Russian girls, girls from San Francisco, girls from New York, girls from everywhere. She actually was a stop on the Chitlin circuit. So when we talk about, when we think about stops on the Chitlin circuit, or when we hear about the Chitlin circuit, we're thinking really about entertainment. Understand that sex work is a part of entertainment. So when we talk about musical entertainment, when we talk about theater entertainment, when we talk about all that kind of stuff, these different stops all around the country were all a part of the network of the Chitlin circuit. So when that was a part of it, Nellie's place was a part of that. Do you think a Do you think a what? Do you think a D is it? Do you mean TS? Do you think a TS black woman? Is that what you mean? What do you mean DS? Or dark skin? Okay, a dark skinned black woman could pull a Nellie Jackson. Yes, I don't think. I don't think. I don't think that a dark skinned woman couldn't do it. I don't think that she couldn't do it. I just think that just like with anything, I think that Nellie being light skinned, it gives her access to a different kind of clientele. It gives her access to a different kind of privilege. That's just what it is. It just gives you. I can remember me as an escort. There were certain dudes who, even though they fetishize black women, I'm gonna pick you because you're lighter. You're not just black. And you would hear them say shit like that. Now, me being a person, that would be something I would notice because I'm like, blah, blah, blah. But this is also business, so I really wouldn't care. You got my rate. Let's go. But I would hear it, and I know it's filed in the back of my mind how this colorism shit works. You feel what I'm saying? So I would hear them say certain things, asking me questions, and they wouldn't say stuff all the time as directly as that. Sometimes it would be like, what are you mixed with? You just look like you're mixed with something, like you got this. And you can tell that they're fetishizing you because of your ambiguity in regards to that. So you'll hear it, you'll see it, you hear it in other girls' conversation. But also as a trans woman, there is another small little nuance. If you are black, dark black, like as a black woman, as a black trans woman, you're fetishized because of your penis too, because they assume that since you used to be a black man, that you got the penis of a black man. And so when it comes to penis size, they're going to fetishize the darker girl. They're going to think that, oh, she's untainted. She's on that. They're going to think that she got, not that it's necessarily true, but they're going to think that that darker girl, just like the more masculine trans woman in sex work, they're going to think that that dick work because you you must not be on your hormones because you're a little bit more masculine. So that means that dick is working down there because you ain't on your hormones. And so they will fetish in the trans community, in the trans woman community. I have seen that where they'll fetish the darker ones because they assume that their dick is bigger. So yes, to answer your question, there's a long way. I'm adding a little bit more, but yes, I think that a darker skinned woman could do it. And actually, even though you didn't mean TS, there actually was a trans woman who did this in the Bay Area, in the California area. Lucy H. Henderson, Henderson Hicks. Monica Roberts has there's a documentary about her. I don't know where it's at, but there's a lot of writing on her that you can Google. She was a trans woman who basically did what Lucy Henderson Hicks did, except instead of her business, she ran a brothel too, but her business also was that was kind of like the undercover. It wasn't as open as Nellie's. She did like a catering business, but she ran a brothel too. Like she was a part of taking care of people's houses and banquets and like when they had events, she would be the one that they would go to and do that. But she knew all the secrets of the townspeople. She knew all the secrets of the mayors. And so she was able to, get a little bit more access. And she wasn't a light-skinned woman, but she did kind of fit that role that Nellie did in the Bay Area. I was surprised at the selection of girls and the clientele that came through. I always found Natchez so slow and boring. I was surprised at how popping it was back in the day. But you got to understand where it is. It is off in the cut. It's off in the cut. Natchez is a little bit above, New Orleans. So it's just more quiet. It ain't like the big city. Like when you go to the Big Easy, baby, it's just busy and the hustle and bustle. When you go to Natchez, just small little town, you can have your fun, especially somebody who is providing you with this variety. She got all these variety of girls. So if you never mess with a Asian girl, ooh, I can come get my fetish here. And she was hustling. And that's another thing that I noticed. She was hustling all around hustling. So this is how she was making so much money. She was not only hustling the girls in regards to the sex work, but she also was selling she was bootlegging too. She was selling liquor for higher price. Oh, it's late at night. You ain't gonna get no liquor this time of night. Yeah, I'm gonna sell it to you for $5, even though it costs 50 cents. And so she was selling motherfucking toilet paper, tissues to the girls. She was selling, she was selling liquor. She was just doing all this stuff that was bringing her money in. So over time, with nobody fucking with her, her business is growing and growing and growing. Especially back then when you could buy a house and it was fucking cheap and you would just have it. It was no kind of extra bullshit that was going on. But that's why she was able to give the church money. That's why she was able to invest in funding like organizations in regards to that. What did you think about her husband? That was my next point. That Jim Poole, I feel like Jim Poole was a fuck boy. He had a whole little family somewhere else, but I feel like he was a fuck boy who had a gambling problem. And even though his daughter was trying to make it seem like, Nellie was getting something out of the situation. I don't feel like it was equal. I think he was getting money from Nellie. I think Nellie probably loved the man, probably loved him. And that was a person who, that was her third husband. So that probably was one that she loved. That was probably one that got into her heartstrings, that she loved. That's why she kept coming back to him, even though he stole that $90,000. I also thought it was interesting that Nellie took her money out that bank. Remember, if you was watching it, she went to that bank and the bank was acting funny with her, and she took her whole motherfucking bank account. Yeah, her husband sold 90K. Like, silly. But I think he was the one she probably loved, and anybody who has been in love before, you can get kind of silly about a nigga. But I think he probably loved her too. But anyway, I was telling you about her taking her money out of that bank and going to another bank that was new. Oh, I thought that was a boss ass move. I know that hurt that bank's little pockets, baby. So let's talk about the demise. When I watched the show for the first time, this particular way of her dying annoyed the fuck out of me. It annoyed me. Some childish ass little ass boy. And the audacity of it. Like, this nigga went to a gas station, filled up a cooler with gas, so drunk and dumb that he's spilling all the gas on himself as he's walking it across the street to Nellie's house, douses her and himself with the fucking gas, and then tries to set her on fire. Well, does set her on fire, but also sets himself on fire. This is how this remarkable 60 year business mogul dies because this fucking idiot buffoon just some random time. An old woman, not only was you ain't doing this to some young woman, not that would be okay, but you're doing this to an old lady. An old lady. You are setting an old lady on fire. Like, what? What kind of demonic asshole are you? And demonic idiot. You set yourself on fire too. And the girl, remember that black girl? She said she came over to him when he had ran. First of all, bitch, you are the neighbor of Nellie Jackson, Why the fuck you not worried about her? Why the fuck you running over to that nigga? Why you running over to that nigga? Anyway, she runs over to him, and then he gonna say, he said, oh, I done fucked myself up. And burned the dogs too. Yes. And where was the girls at? Was no girls in the house? I don't know. I didn't get what was, I don't remember. I ain't watching it in a minute. But wasn't no girls in the house. It's just so much that I just thought that was just not the way for Nellie to die. I didn't want that Nellie die. And then someone the motherfucker said that she got what she deserved. Well, they didn't say it. They said that other people in town was saying she got what she deserved. What? What? Like, this is what I don't understand. She ain't hurting none of y'all motherfuckers. She actually helping more people. She was helping more people in regards to community. Like, literally, they started breaking down everything she was doing. She was helping civil rights activists. She was helping the church. She was oiling the pocket of a fucking powerful white man in the city. So she got her hands. She motherfuckers getting paid off of Nellie's back. Understand that. The economy of the motherfucking city, Nellie is a part of this economy. Motherfuckers come here because of the brothel she runs. So this city is thriving, not just because of her, but she is one of the components in why this city is thriving. And you motherfuckers talking about she got what she deserved. What kind of, get the fuck out of here. You whack. She was funding civil rights movements. Why did he do it? Because she wouldn't let him in the house. He was too drunk. Mm-hmm. And he was, I guess he was failing out of Ole Miss or something. He was failing out of Ole Miss, and he couldn't go back to school or something like that. And he just was a whack. He was a mediocre whack ass white boy. That is it. And like mediocre whack ass white boys, they feel like they entitled to everything. And he didn't understand this nigger ass woman, this high yellow nigger gal, thinking that she can tell him no, thinking that she can say, no, you can't go, you can't come in here, take your ass back, all that kind of stuff. And he had the audacity to set her on fire. And he knew he could. He was from Mississippi. He knew he could. This is historically how they engage with black folks. If there's one with the problem, and put some liquor in their system, this is what comes out. This is what comes out of them. This is how they think. This is how they do. This is what it is. The white men on the documentary, everybody had the tea on the KKK, but of course they got the tea through a friend of a friend of a friend. Yeah, right. Even that mayor for 20 years. Y'all talk about all y'all got was some bottles of liquor. Y'all let a black woman run a 60-year-old brothel, run a brothel for 60 years because of some liquor, some Jack Daniels. Okay, girl. Okay. If you don't get your ass out of here. If you don't get your ass out of here, child. Y'all got more than some motherfucking bottles of Jack Daniels. Get the fuck out of here. Y'all was getting more than that. Them police was getting more than that. They probably could come over and get some pussy whenever they felt like it. You feel what I'm saying? That's exactly what was going on. She coming over every Christmas. She would come over every Christmas and drop off Jack Daniels. And that's why we didn't bust her or arrest her. what Jules knows what's his name? That meme with Salon's son where he like, no. CL, we are talking about the documentary Mississippi Madam, The Life of Nellie Jackson. It is a documentary about a black woman who ran a brothel for 60 years, um, and it kind of narrates that journey. And we are talking about that. It is on Prime. I also didn't like the way they romanticized the situation. It was a novelty to them. To me, they didn't see the humanity in it. What do you mean when you say it was? What is the it? Define what the it is. It was a novelty to them. Explain that. Now that's really what it is. How she gonna say no to him? That's what I really thought. Exactly. That's what it was. Yes, it's on um, Amazon Prime. And a little there's some little clips on YouTube as well. Um, do you mean the brothel being in the in the city was a novelty? Oh, the fire situation was a novelty. Hmm. But nobody. Okay, and especially if you are queer in the chat, if you are a queer person or you are a trans person, I've always felt this for many years. There is a surface level social mindset, and then there's a level. Yeah, that's what I thought you meant. Um, there's a beyond the mask, behind the veil that people like us we have access to. So there's a surface level of what people think, what people say, what people feel that kind of matches the status quo. That kind of like people will say certain things that they think, but when you get them behind closed doors, I was telling my friend that the other day. Like, I had to delete him off my Facebook over this little Boosie shit. I've been deleting people over this little Boosie shit for so long. Like, y'all niggas is comparing D Wade to little Boosie. You know, get the fuck out of here. Anyway, we can talk about that later. But like when it comes to heterosexuality, I have not met one dude in my life, maybe my brother, but I think my brother, my younger brother, not even the middle, my younger brother, but I don't think my brother would tell me. But other than my brother, I have not met one dude that has not done something that is queer. Like they'll say certain things on a surface level. They can say all these feelings and these patriarchal rules and these anti-gay rules and da 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 da. But when you sit down and talk to them one on one, I haven't met one woman, I haven't met one man that hasn't even thought about doing something queer or actually acted on it. And they may not be actively practicing, but they've done something. I know some of the most homophobic men in my family. Come to find out, years when they was in their teens, one of the queer ancestors of the city was a butch queen. His name was Miss Love. Got caught sucking their dicks. My uncles. And nobody talks. They homophobic as hell, but nobody brings that shit up. But something that happened in their past. And when I bring it up, they was like, we was young. We didn't know no better. What? Fuck out of here. Fuck out of here. And that's usually what happens. When I get to talking to people, when I get to discussing shit with them, and we actually get to talking, like sit down and get to talking, and they let that guard down, and I get behind that veil, every motherfucker I know is queer. Exactly, Sherry. That's what I mean. Like, you know where the normal, and I'm being sarcastic. Um, the normal, like there's a normal where I know how to act. I know my hair is supposed to be this way. I know how to perform this normalcy. But I also know, because we know how secrecy works, I know that I can go do this in secret. I know if I need to say and perform heterosexuality and masculinity a certain way. But I know behind closed doors, I can go over to Antoine's house. I don't know no nigga named Antoine that ain't gay. That's why I said Antoine. I could go over to Antoine's house and get my dick sucked, run in his booty hole, and go on back to my normal life. It's the same thing with the women. I know that I can go play Doris Day, Susie Homemaker, cook and clean and take care of the kids, but I can go be a prostitute on the low. Or I can go fuck Jimmy Earl up the street because he got a bigger dick than my husband. And nobody ain't got to know nothing. But I can go be normal. Please remember to hit the like button. Yes, please hit, if you enjoy the conversation, hit thumbs up. My own dad admitted to being fooled by a trans woman in the 80s. So my dad, I mean, my very first episode in my on my podcast is called Daddy's Lessons. I didn't know that he was into trans women. I didn't meet him until I was 12, which I was about to transition. And so it was really strange. It was really, really strange to hear that kind of revelation from the trans woman that he dealt with. So she detransitioned, so she's a boy now. But at the time, they were in a relationship. He was living with her. So my dad has a whole relationship with a trans woman when he was 18, 19, 20. And I didn't know about it until recently. Crazy, excuse me. Like, they hid it, but your clients are townsfolk too. But it's just unsaid. Exactly. Much love from Canada. Hey, Keely. I think is that how you pronounce it? Keely? Kelly? Um, I need your thoughts on the Boosie situation after we finish with Nellie. I actually don't have any more conversation about Nellie except for I wanted, even though, yeah, so I wanted to say this before we get off the Nelly subject. I remember even though there was like the white man that was laughing and calling them whores, like, I'm sitting here eating this soul food with all these whores like I'm one of them. That one was annoying the fuck out of me. But one of the white men, he was the one that seemed like he has a little bit of education. Some of them just seem like country butt fucks. But one of the ones said that she was an old institution. Like, I thought that was beautiful that he called her that, because I do think, even though it was of the unsavory, it was one of the unsavory institutions, we got to understand that this was an institution. This was a part of the fabric and the economic gain of Natchez. It was a part of it. It was an old institution. I think that was a beautiful thing that he said. It was an old institution, and I love that the preacher, buried her right in the end. I thought that was amazing. I thought that was a good thing, and I love how when she dies, when the business is done, when the institution is gone, the whole neighborhood goes to shit. The irony of that. When she dies and she's not there to hold everything together and make everything look pretty and make sure people's houses is taken care of and make sure things is taken care of, the whole city goes down. The whole little street goes down. Because definitely ain't nobody talking about Natchez now. Definitely ain't nobody talking about Natchez now. So yeah. So okay. We can talk about Boosie. I think that shout out to Brianna Jenkins. So because she really, really thought this out, and I thought it was so brilliant, and I agree with her. But I'm just giving her credit because she put this into words, because she's a lawyer, and that's what lawyer bitches do. um, she she really laid out, especially in her last episode called her podcast is called Box Number 512. I think that's what it's called. But she really lays out how we should expand the meaning of coercive rape. Because if you think about it, the way he talks about this particular thing with his child, in Africa, particularly there's cases in Africa. I know it's everywhere. So I just know that there's been a lot of cases in Africa. When it comes to queer cisgender women, there are a lot of men who rape queer women in order to fix them, to correct them, corrective rape. They think that if they fuck you, you will like penis, it will prevent you from being gay, it will stop you from being gay, and boom. And so it's this concept of corrective rape. Bootsy is doing the same thing, but just on the other end. He thinks that this is the way to keep his little boy from being gay, from being queer. So if I give him some head so he can like pussy and like head and like women, and they give him pleasure at this young age, I can rear him into being a man, a straight man. And so this is almost a preventative measure in order to make him not queer. And I know this is how they think because this is how my mother thought. I am one of those people who my mother offered to do that. My mother literally offered when I wasn't coming out and saying that I was queer. She literally was like, "Well, if you never, how you know you don't like pussy if you never had pussy? I can get somebody to give you some pussy. I can pay somebody to give you some pussy just to see if you like it." And so, and it was about me them not wanting me to be queer, them not wanting me to be on that level. So they're thinking that pussy is magical. They think pussy somehow is magical and it's gonna somehow, because it feels good, because pussy does feel good. I wouldn't know, but I know from what men tell me and what people who have tried it, that pussy feels good. So they think because of the power of the vagina that it's gonna somehow make people not queer or make you not like it or make you not like dick. And I know some gay men that have pussy and they still like dick. Still like ass. And still like dick and ass better. And so, yes, plenty of gay men have had vagina as a child and it don't change things. Absolutely. I wonder how much money burnt up in the house if she was like my great grandma. She had money everywhere in the house. Yeah, my great grandmother was like that too. I don't think a lot of the money burnt up in the house, actually. I think she had our bank at the time. I don't think Ari, I actually don't think that's a bad question when we are talking about sexuality and things we've done. I don't think asking the question is a problem. But when you are asking a child that, at the time that I was being asked, I wasn't even sexually active. So I think that I think that this is them trying to avoid their children being gay. And I think that this is them training them into objectifying women. I think that this is them training them into treating women how adult men treat them. This is how you treat a woman. This is how you treat them. You sexualize them. You trick off. You nut all in their face. You fuck them. You do all of this. You objectify them. They are training these little boys into being the trash that we talk about when we in their adult counterparts. They are training them to be this. And so when we talk about them having you, and think about it, it's almost like it's not force, but it is kind of force. Like if your dad hires some prostitute to fuck you, a dad like Bootsy, who has this patriarchal mindset, a homophobic mindset, can you say no? As a 12-year-old, can you say no to your dad? Can you say, no, I don't want to have sex with I don't want to have sex with a prostitute. I want to have sex with somebody that I love. Can you say that at 12 years old? So there's a level of force, of peer pressure that would have to happen in regards to how they are engaged, how the son responds to this proposition. How do you respond to this level of patriarchy? How do you respond to this? How do you respond to your dad saying, "Oh, here's a prostitute. She gonna come up. She coming to suck your dick." Especially when you're trained to say, "Ooh, yeah, I'm getting my dick sucked at 12. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's hot." But there's nobody to tell CPS. There's no, now it might be, I've seen an article where something could be said. But in the situation, there's nobody who are ready to hold accountable because they are benefiting from what is happening. When we talk about the prostitute, who is also wrong, you are disgusting if you are taking money and molesting a child. That is disgusting. So you are wrong, but she's getting money. She's not gonna care. It's just like niggas out here selling drugs to somebody's mama who's spending their rent money, knowing that this woman has kids at home and she's about to spend her rent money on crack from you. That nigga don't give a fuck. That's her kids. And that prostitute is that same way. As dog and gross and late as it is, this is Lil Boosie. I'm trying to get this money. I'm trying to get this money that he got. And if I got to suck some little 12-year-old dick, I ain't going to ask no questions. Is that trash? Absolutely. But this is a world full of motherfuckers who throw morals out the window when it comes to money and advancement. You feel what I'm saying? So you got the prostitute who is not gonna hold because she's trying to get money, so she's not gonna hold nobody accountable. You got the little 12-year-old boy who is immature in his mind, who is about to get pleased, who is about to get a physical pleasure that is going to make his dad happy, that is going to give him a rite of passage into manhood. I'm a real man. It's going to put him on a pedestal. Ooh, I got my dick sucked. I can go to school and brag about getting my dick sucked. Because it wasn't just Bootsy's son. It was the cousins too, like his nephews. So, me and my family, we can go to school and brag not only about all this stuff that my dad buys me, but oh yeah, we done got pussy too. We done got some head too. Yeah, we done got our dick sucked. Some immature child thinking. So it's no incentive for him to be like, pump the brakes, because he's a child. He's not going to think about that. He's going to think about, oh, I'm making my dad proud because I'm not gay. I went on the little boy's Instagram, and this little boy, he's 14 now, he was on his Instagram talking about, oh, I got some bitches that'll fuck Zaya Wade. He wouldn't want to be no woman. He would want to be a man. This is not Lil Boosie. This is the little boy. That little Boosie has now trained into this trash thinking. This is what he said on his Instagram about Zaya Wade. And so he has been reared to be this trash nigga. And he's going to be that. And then you got little Boosie. I'm sure he has also been reared into this mind of thinking. He has been reared into this mind of thinking, and there's no incentive for him to stop the madness. There's no incentive. He feels like, I am doing what's right. I am doing what I'm supposed to do as a father. I am supposed to train them up to be men, straight, trash, heterosexual men. This is what you do. This is how you treat bitches. You fuck them. You get your dick sucked. Dick sucked. There's no respect. It actually, the respect of your own body doesn't exist in men. Your body is used for your pleasure. Your body is used to take and conquer. That is what makes you a man. Especially when it comes to your response, your interaction with women. And so nobody in the situation, from the little boy to the prostitute to little Boosie, is going to hold anybody accountable. So there's nobody to call CPS. There's nobody to say this is wrong, because they're all benefiting from the situation, from their perspective. Melissa W., very true. The converse are usually reserved for daughters. Absolutely. Absolutely. We know this wouldn't happen with a daughter, because as bad as it is, when you hear the men say, oh, daughters is different. Yes, daughters are different. Not in reality, but how they think about daughters is going to be different. We own our daughters. Look at T.I. and Hyman shit. I own my daughters. How my daughter navigates out in this world is a reflection of my fatherhood, is a reflection of me. So she needs to be a virgin. She needs to be, when we talk about the whore and the Madonna, all that kind of stuff, her being a Madonna makes me the successful dad. Her being a virgin till it's time till she get older is something that I can brag on. I can say, my daughter stayed a virgin until da 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 da. And so women, how they think about girls, how girls reflect them, how girls reflect their own fatherhood is different than how boys do. It's different. Them being a mannish, disgusting pig of a man makes them look good. But the girl being a whore, a slut, da 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 da, doesn't make them look good as a father. Because what they're gonna say to her is, what happened to the father? Where is your father in your life? You clearly don't have a father in your life if you out here getting pregnant. You clearly don't have a responsible, strong father if you out here fucking and being a slut and being a whore. Clearly no. So that makes him look bad. So he has to control her. He has to have ownership of her. So his image as a man can be fulfilled by her being morally great and morally right. If someone brought one of the girls over there, then people should see how inappropriate it was. Yeah, you could see it, but that don't mean they could fix it. And what you gonna do? Especially if you a yes man around Bootsy, and he is your key to access to money, key to access to meeting celebrities, key to access to traveling. He is he's the one who is paying you. What you gonna say? Look at what they did with R. Kelly. They knew what all that shit he was doing. It was common knowledge. They knew all of that stuff he was doing. But they were hiding it because they wanted access to what he had to offer. He was a celebrity. My question to Boosie is, why are you this scared of gay? Why are you going to this extreme? But they don't think that this is extreme. This is a norm. I think this is a part of our culture. This isn't new. Boosie isn't the only one. Boosie isn't the only one think like this. Look at some of the comments in response to this. They all agree with them. Not all of them, but a lot of men are like, oh, this is different. That's my boy. And it may not be that extreme where they're paying for sex for their son, but it could be something as simple as they catch their son humping. They catch their son in the bedroom humping a girl. They're gonna be like, "Oh, don't do that." You see what I'm saying? It's gonna be don't do that, but it's gonna be like, yeah. It's gonna be like, yeah, that's my son, my boy. It's gonna be actually proud. But if they catch their daughter getting humped, ooh, that's a whole different thing. And I think it's a part. It may not be extreme as Little Bootsy, but that sentiment is a part of the culture. It's a part of rape culture. It's a part of the patriarchal culture. It's a part of our culture. Irregardless of race, it's on both sides. If black folks protect their kids from white supremacy like they do gayness, imagine what it would be. Explain that a little bit more. If black folks protect their kids from white supremacy like they do gayness, imagine what that would be. Something about that don't sit right in my spirit. I think we do raise our kids to be protective against white supremacy. I think code switching is one of the tenets of protecting, getting us access, like teaching your kids to code switch, how you talk to white people and how you talk when you're home. I think we do that. I don't know. I don't think I agree with that. That seemed like some weird anti-blackness to me. I wonder how Boosie would feel if the woman he hired was transgender. Oh, he wouldn't hire her. He's very anti-trans. He would die. She would have died right there. Yeah. He finds his moral compass then. Oh yeah, when it comes to trans folks. Don't cut off his dick, man. Don't cut off his dick, man. I am still in shock. He thought he was right for this. So right, he had to brag about it. But they think this is okay. They think that they haven't been held accountable for shit until now. This is why you see them say shit about the Me Too movement. And that makes it seem like the Me Too movement is a crush. Oh, nah, man. This is the Me Too era. That shit don't fly no more. Like, they're angry that they are being held accountable for trash ass shit. That we have a little bit more power and we're able to talk to each other and we're able to talk about what's going on and how inappropriate some of the things that they do. You can't. It's no. You can't do that anymore. You can't. It's no longer people are just being quiet. We're calling shit out, and they're not understanding it. We're still oppressed, Diamond. Black babies still grow up to be less than white. To grow up to make less than white babies. That's bullshit. But I'm not. I didn't say that we are not oppressed. Like, anybody who has heard me talking know that I don't think we're not oppressed. What you're comparing in your first statement, you said if black folks protect their kids from white supremacy like they do gayness, imagine where we would be. Like our whole existence is to protect us from white supremacy. And so you comparing those two, I think is idiotic. I just think it's idiotic. So it doesn't make sense. I think I think patriarchy and white supremacy, they go together, and we protect our people from both of them. Like, it's something that black folks have always protected their kids from white supremacy. Like, you need to read this book. This is a great start. Like, Dr. Joy DeGroyer, the post-traumatic slave syndrome. This book really it really gives you some history about how parents started to, protect their kid from white supremacy. It's just something that you had to do. And so for you to say that that comparing how they protect their kids from homosexuality to how they protect their kids from white supremacy, it just doesn't correlate with me. It doesn't make sense. So I don't know what you mean. But okay. Black folks are more worried about that than white. I just don't agree with that. I just don't agree with that. I think we are worried about white supremacy. I think cishet people are worried about white supremacy, and I think cishet people are worried about homosexuality. Now, if you're talking about Black men, then we can talk about that. If you're talking about Black men, but if you're talking about Black people in general, I just disagree. I think that yes, do Black babies know gay is wrong before white supremacy or the other way around? I think that they know both is wrong as they grow up. You learn how white supremacy plays out. I learned early on how my teachers treated me compared to white students. But I also learned how my uncles treated me compared to my girl cousins. How there was a privilege in me of being a male child. And then when I started to be queer, how they treated me different than my cishet male cousins. Like you learn that early on, all those things, those nuances of race, those nuances of sexuality, those nuances of gender. You learn that really early on in your life, just living in this world. So making it somehow a difference, I just don't see there's a difference. Now, if you're talking about cishet men, I can run with that. But when we're talking about community as a whole, no, I don't. I think cis heteronormativity is the norm, um, and so is whiteness is quote unquote the norm in this country, and so both of those battles are simultaneous. There's an intersection of both of those battles, and they're happening simultaneously. And as a Black person, particularly a Black woman, particularly a Black queer woman, um, what's happening to me as a Black person is also happening to me as a queer person at the same time. So I don't see there being some imbalance in the community fighting against white supremacy or fighting against homosexuality. I think Black people are conservative, and both of those concepts um, are something they battle against in the United States. The cishet people, particularly men, they battle against white supremacy and they battle against homosexuality because of religion, because they're conservative. So I think it's both. I don't think it's one more than the other. In this situation, it's different. I kind of understand that. I've heard a couple of sisters say they prefer their kids to marry a rich, racist white man than be gay. Mm, yeah, I'm pretty sure there are both sides of that coin. I know some people that much will be much happier with a gay child than a sellout anti-black child. I know plenty of dudes who would hate a sellout anti-black person. So I think you can find nuance on both sides. I think you can find, you know, nothing is absolute, and nothing is an extreme. But yeah, I just don't. Yeah, we just disagree, but it's okay. I think that I think the comparison between D Wade and Little Boosie is quite idiotic as well. I think it's rather stupid. No, not really. I don't think it's. I don't think you can protect totally from it, but you can try. One of the things that she talks about is how in this book is how you as a parent, as a slave parent, if your child, there might be a clip on YouTube of her talking about it. Now we know that they would sell your kids off if they have any kind of talent, or if they're smart, or if they're strong, if da 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 da. So the parents, the women and the men, would talk down on the child to make the people believe that no, the child isn't smart. No, the child isn't strong. Because if you make them seem like they're less than what they are, they're less likely to be sold off. Oh yeah, he's dumb. Let me sell you. And that's going to go on. That legacy of that can go on in the culture of how we behave. And so she talked about multiple situations of those kind of negative, when we talk about how if you take a white kid, when we think about how white kids act out in public and black kids, how we police them. We know in our culture, our parents, when we're about to go into the store, our parents will be like, oh, I'm going to beat your ass if you touch this. I'm going to beat your ass if you don't stay by me. You need to stay where I can see you. Blah, 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 blah. And white kids are just running around being free, having temper tantrums, and just doing whatever they want to do. Not all of them. Nothing is absolute. And there may be some exceptions. But in our culture, that is something that we all have experienced. And that can be a part of the narrative in regards to how we protect ourselves when it comes to white supremacy, how we protect ourselves, how we little behaviors, controlling behaviors on how we how we interact with white supremacy, and how we train our children to interact with white supremacy. Even subtly. Because I remember my mother would say shit about white people, but we would have to act a certain way when certain white people of power would come around, when we were trying to get something from them. So although there would be negative things said, oh, them motherfuckers smell like wet dog, them motherfuckers smell like grass, them motherfuckers smell like outside, then, it would be all these things, oh, you can't trust them white motherfuckers, and, it would be all these things said, but when we need something, when we need to go something, we need something, and this white person of power could give us access to it, we would have to act a certain way, speak a certain way, dress a certain way. There was a certain level of respectability that you had to perform in order to get some shit from these white people. And that was taught to me, not necessarily verbally, but how my mother acted in situations. I visualized how different she was acting at home, how different she was acting around white people, how different she was acting around black people. It was a distinct difference, and I knew that she was trying to get something. And this was something I saw in my aunt. My aunt does it all the time. My aunt does it so much that it's annoying. My aunt code switched so much that it is annoying. And it wasn't that it was verbally taught. It's just by seeing the behavior. I was able to see it early in my relationship, early in my life. Yes. But anyway, Little Bootsy in comparing it to D Wade, I just don't get how people, I know why, because they are transphobic. That's just what it is. People are looking at D Wade allowing his child the freedom to self-identify. Zaya Wade has not decided to get a sex change. She has not talked about having sex. There has not been anything in regards to indicate that she is having sex or that she is getting a sex change. She is just self-identifying that I'm a girl. I identify as a girl. I want you to call me she. I want you to call me her. And he, as a responsible father who has been talking to his child since they were 3, they are 12 now. So that's almost 10 years of letting them grow into themselves and giving them the freedom to say, my child has always been like that. We allowed them to flourish, and now we are going to support her. That is very different. And them comparing that to abuse Them saying that that is abuse? That is so strange to me. Like, how can you say that this is abuse? Like, allowing your child to self identify compared to a nigga who is letting grown women, paying grown women come and non consensually have sex with them at 12. There's a difference between a 12-year-old saying, "This is who I am," and you're letting a 12-year-old come and letting a adult come have sex with a 12-year-old. That is weird. That is off. Those are not comparable things. It's disgusting. I used to code switch so hard at school. Then my white friends would come over to my house and be like, when I suddenly only spoke AAVE. Yeah, that's hilarious. I intentionally try not to code switch. Sometimes it's habitual, but I now that I've gotten older, I am trying really, really intentionally not to code switch. It takes practice. But all right, we are at 2 hours. So if you haven't watched Nellie Jackson, make sure y'all check it out. Make sure y'all thumbs up. Make sure y'all share if y'all haven't shared. Make sure that you go check out Mississippi Madden, The Life of Nellie Jackson. It is a great documentary. It is one of those stories that I think it's an amazing story. I don't think because she owned a brothel that that's a negative thing. I think this is somebody who, in a time of heavy, heavy oppression, she figured out a way to make it work for her. And I think that that is I don't want to say a hero story, but it's a triumphant story for me. It's her working the damn system and becoming an icon in her area. I think that's an amazing story. So check it out. You can follow me on every social media platform. Diamond Styles, DIAMONDSTYLZ. I have a podcast called Marsha's Plate, named after Marsha's P. Johnson. Marsha P. Johnson. Marsha's Plate. It is going to be linked in the bottom. We put out an episode every Thursday discussing current events, culture, all from a Black trans feminist lens. It is me and my two co-hosts, a Black trans man and another Black trans woman. And I hope that you come check us out. And thank y'all for watching. Yeah. If you follow me on Twitter, I'll probably come up with something else to talk about next Friday. We do a live show every Friday between 7 and 8 o'clock. So thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure y'all thumbs up. Have a good night.